All right, all right, all right. What's up, folks? We are live. We are live back on the topic of California's death row. So we're going in from where the inmate list stood from 2019. Some of these people a few of them had died, not a lot of them. A few have died. A few of them have been commuted to I wouldn't even know if it's a lesser sentence, but to life in prison. So a lot of them ain't facing death penalty as far as the state sponsored execution of these fools. But these fools, having a natural death that will occur in prison. And I wish California wake up, California get a stronger governor as this stance on the death penalty, and some of these people get removed. Some of these people existence from the world is taken away. Give the families justice for the crimes that have been committed, the sinister crimes from a lot of these fools. Get them the hell up out of here, get it moving like Texas and who else knocks people off? Florida and all them states that don't really waste time with putting those who are on their serious list. So we go left off. So this is where we not last left off, but this is where we will begin this show. We're gonna go into this dude, Glenn T. Hauser, 46 now. He has 5 victims, committed the crime in the year 2000. Sentenced March 11, 2005. So 5 years to get this fool sentenced. Says it was him and his brother. So him and his brother, Justin, they killed 5 people, cutting up their bodies and dumping them in the Sacramento River. In the Sacramento River Delta, says in a bizarre plot to raise money to overthrow the Mormon church. Says both were condemned. So I don't know how they overthrow the Mormon church. So his brother, his whole ass brother, committed suicide while on death row. So he was like, man, he ain't about to let them do it. He'll do it himself. So good for him. Good, he's out of the way. Let me see. Let's go into this situation here. Let me find this case here and see if they got any more documentation about how he was caught. So they even got his story on Wikipedia. Let me see. I'm gonna go through this thing I've been getting these cases from. The last crazy one was that one out of San Pedro with the Mexican cat who was in there knocking people off and shit. That fool was crazy. Let me see. This might be it. Is this Herzog's? All right, no, there's some Supreme Court. They're showing his appeals that I'm looking at. We'll go into his actual case. So the facts. The Mormon church, defendants raised money. So these fools were Mormon, I believe. And let me check their Wikipedia story out. See which one gives the best summary. It's probably going to be Wikipedia. All right, so here it is. I'm going to go to the Wikipedia one. So let me pull this one up, dive in their case, and see how did they get caught. All right, so this is Glenn Taylor Helzer. Says the self-declared prophet, prophet, former cult leader and spree killer, says he founded and led the Children of Thunder. Sound like a little white sucker premise group. Want to be a little bitty Nazi. Helzer and his followers, so he had followers that did it. Says murder 5 people as part of an extortion plot intended to culminate. Intended to culminate with Helzer taking over the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and hasten the return of Christ. See, that's why I said, man, these are the type of people who be preaching this damn Christ shit, this church shit, and I be saying, who is this God they believe in? A lot of these fools don't believe none of that shit. Is a lot of wicked shit in their form of religion. Says among their victims was Selena Bishop, daughter of blues guitarist Elvin Bishop. So a blues player lost it. Ain't the copy blues my mom and them listen to, but he's a blues guy. All right, so early life, this fool was born in Michigan. To parents who were devout Mormons. So he was raised in a Mormon church, ended up becoming an enemy of the Mormon church, weirdo. His parents is probably, they ain't gonna say where his parents came from, but they definitely came from somewhere over where Hitler and them all from. Let's see. Helzer graduated this high school and served in the National Guard in Texas and as a missionary in Brazil. It says he worked as a stockbroker for Morgan Stanley, so he ended up getting a good job doing the little shit that people who do the least minimal work and earn good incomes, sitting at a computer trading your money. Says, and until August of 1998, says when he went on disability, says after being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So you have a deranged fool, bipolar, getting at work. He married his wife, Anne, says in April, says they had 2 daughters, says before separating in June of 96, so lasted 3 years. Children of Thunder, so this is his coat, says his brother met, who was at Don Goodman, says on Memorial Day, 1999, at a murder mystery dinner, says hosted by a Mormon congregation in Walnut Creek, California. Goodman became Justin's girlfriend, says it moved into a house in Concord with the Helzer brothers in 2000s. Glenn Helzer was excommunicated from the Latter-day Saints Church in 1998 due to his drug use. So they said, get your crackhead ass up out of here. He said, I'll be back. I'll get revenge on you. I dare you kick me out. When you should be helping me out, I'm a dope fiend. Help me out. And see, that's the thing with the church. The church kick you to the curb when you're a dope fiend. They ain't about to help you out. They are not going to pull people up. See, you're a dope fiend, and that should be the money for the tithes. You ain't got no tithe money. You got to go. We ain't going to help you. So around this time, he declared himself a prophet. Well, fuck it, man. This crack beaming me up. I feel this connected to God. Says he developed a list of maxims he called the 12 principles of magic, says by which he expected his followers to abide. Says he had plans to train Brazilian orphans to assassinate Mormon leaders so that he could take over the Latter-day Saints Church and start a self-help group. Whew, boy, that crack in that religion, god damn. Says called the Transform America, it says, which was intended to create a state of peace and joy. Helzer collectively referred to himself and his followers as the Children of Thunder. Here go the murders. To finance his plan, Helzer developed a scheme to extort money from Ivan and Annette Steinman, an elder couple in Concord, California, who had been Helzer's clients when he was employed as a stockbroker. So he knew their money. He knew what kind of finances they had, what was left in it. See, I always worry about that shit when you get people like this access and they work for these type of companies and then they are associated with people who can be involved in shit and they come with these schemes. Yeah, I got a new lick for us. This motherfucker got about $500,000 and $900,000 in this account. Yeah, we can extort him. This is the address. It says on July 30, 2000, the Helzers brothers and Goodman kidnapped the Steinmans and forced them to write checks for $100,000 before murdering them. Wow. The trio then murdered Glenn Helzer's girlfriend, Selena Bishop, his girlfriend. Wow. On August 2nd, in order to prevent her from potentially providing information that could lead to his arrest. So she was there, part of it. They killed her ass off. Says to extort the Steinmans' money, Helzer convinced Bishop, who knew him as Jordan, says to open bank accounts in her name for Helzer's use. He told her that he was inheriting a large sum of money, which he needed to hide from his ex-wife. So of course, like old gold digging, greedy, lured by money bitch, she went and did it. But she probably had no other choice. Helzer and Goodman then went to Bishop's apartment, where Bishop's mother, Jennifer, Villarine, Jennifer Villarine was staying. Helzer had decided to eliminate Villarine because she had seen him, and he feared she could identify him. He murdered Villarine and her friend, James Gamble, who was at the apartment that night. Damn, what they say? Wrong time, wrong place. God damn. Using a gun registered to Justin Helzer's. Here's the rest. So these motherfuckers, this is just some straight up crackhead shit. Says the 5 murders were connected when police recovered duffel bags from the San Diego River Delta, says which contained the dismembered remains of Bishop and the Steinmans. Investigators searched the Steinman's residence and found a note by Ivan Steinman mentioning Taylor Helzer. Friends of Bishop were shown a photo of Helzer, says whom they identified as Jordan. A Department of Motor Vehicles check revealed that he owned a 1998 Saturn sedan. Dan, does Saturn still make cars? I remember that car company, Saturn. Whatever happened to Saturn? What car company did Saturn become? They were like at one point in the, what about like 95 or sometime in there, the 2000, it was kind of a booming car company. Give me 1 second. All right, so they identify him with this Saturn car, sedan, and Justin owned a white 1995 pickup truck, says which matched description of vehicles believed to be connected to the murders. Investigators also found that Justin had recently purchased a 9mm Beretta, says the same gun that used to kill Villarine and Gamble. Fingerprints belonging to Justin and Goldman, says, were found in the Steinman's van, which had been stolen and abandoned. On August 7th of 2000, police arrested Justin Helzer, says, and Goodman at their Concord home. Wait, hold on, let me check these dates because I thought they killed her. Let's keep going on. Says Glenn fled to a nearby house where he threatened a woman and demanded money. Cities, they go demanding money. God damn it, I need my dope. God damn it, give me some money. I'm gonna escape the police, go find a drug dealer, get high, and keep running. He demanded money and a gun and a car. Says he cut off his ponytail, says and then left through the back door. He was arrested shortly after that. Goodman accepted a plea deal and agreed to testify against the Helzers. She was sentenced to 25 years to life. Good. Fuck that bitch. Put her away. To life for the murder and 12 years and 8 months, says, for other charges related to the murders. Glenn pleaded guilty to all charges and was sentenced to death. Justin pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Yeah, okay. Says with an attorney claiming that he had a delusional disorder. The brothers' incarceration death. Jury says Justin was found guilty and sentenced to death and incarcerated in San Quentin. Justin attempted suicide in 2000 by ramming pins in both his eyeballs. So now the dumb motherfucker blind. Says he survived, says, but left blinded and with brain damage. Got what he deserved, idiot. Justin committed suicide by hanging in April 14th. So, no, somebody did that. How a blind nigga gonna find a rope tied on some shit and hang from it? But regardless, good, he's out of here. So that's these punk ass dudes, this punk ass dude and his brother, dope fiend, over the top religious scumbag, and he's gone. So that's who this dude is. Sorry ass dude. And they don't show this shit when you watch your local news. And this happened in Contra Costa County. So a lot of the death row inmates is from up there. But this is what you don't see when you watch your local news. They always want to show gang members and show drive-by shootings. And these are the people creating the high numbers of crimes in California and this and that. But they refuse to show these type of dudes. And throughout the read on this one, you see a lot of these type of dudes. Here we got Paul Henderson. One victim, crime committed in 1997. He was convicted May 25th, 2001. This is out there in All right, I'm back, folks. I'm back. We had a glitch in the matrix, man. Glitch in the matrix. So let's go fix this one. All right. So a little slight glitch in the matrix. So it's all good. I got two of me. Hold on. We really glitching in the matrix. What the hell is going on here? What the hell? Okay, there it goes. It fixed. Oh, that's the FBI probably fucking with me because I'm always talking shit about that little carpet riding scumbag Cash Patel and shit. That probably Cash Patel and his little flock of carpet hopping, switch flopping ass dummies over there. All right, so let me see. Here we go. Let's go back into it. So let me see. That's just my guess. They ain't going to no way out conspiracies and shit. But like I said, I like talking about little immigrant ass FBI punk. And who knows? That's probably what happened with the glitching in the computer. Let me see. Where do we leave off at? All right, so we left off here at Helzer's. Let me skip this one. This next fool is Paul Henderson. He has the one victim, committed the crime in 97. He was sentenced May 25th of 2001 out in Riverside County. Henderson killed an elderly man during a home invasion robbery. And there you got your life sentence by being a low-life, dumb motherfucker. So they showing at this time when this is done, he's been in there for 24 years now and just waiting for a needle to poke his ass. You got Christopher Henriquez. So Henriquez, a black dude, probably from somewhere where they speak Spanish. I'm going to say what's up to y'all in a minute. See y'all rolling in the chat. He has 3 victims. So I may want to read up on his crime. His crime was committed in 1995. He was sentenced June 2nd, the year 2000. And once again, where the other white dude committed that crime, he was in Contra Costa County, which a lot of people on this shit, on this death row list are from up in this northern part of the country. Of the state. Henriquez killed his wife, says who was 8 months pregnant. So that adds 2 people and their 3-year-old daughter. You piece of shit. Says he had previously killed the man in New York. Oh, that's where the little Spanish name come from. He back over from over there. What a sorry ass fucking dude. Let me see what's the case on this one. Buster ass dude, man. Like, and this is my thing, man. Why are these people alive still? The fuck, and the stupid ass, and it's not me to play political shit because it causes niggas who want to vote for Republicans to be like, yeah, it's the same thing I'll be saying about Gavin Newsom and them. But nah, fuck that. Get rid of these type of people. Get them out of here. They should not be living. They shouldn't even be fed while in prison. Let's see. Death sentence upheld for Antioch man who killed. Okay, here we go. Let me see if they go into his story real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Parole from, and then it's the crazy shit. The fool. How bad was the crime in New York? But then you get these bitches be getting with these fools. Says the killing cover they returned from it. Then they took the chick to Disneyland and all type of shit. So it occurred the day after he took her to Disneyland. Hold on, let me find some more into this case. Hold on, here we go. All right, so this is good right here. All right, so I got it. Let's pull up his case of this sorry motherfucker. You got a daughter, you killed your daughter, and you know your chick pregnant, and you still do this shit. Like, you're worthless, homie. Let's go into the shit. In fact, he's still alive. Let me say what's up to y'all. Picasso in the building says prison ain't no joke. No, prison is for these type of people. Michael Johnson in the building, salute. And a lot of people make prison into where it's this wild habitat because a lot of these dudes in there got mental health issues. A lot of them fucking homosexuals, a motherfucker who turn that shit into the little wild environment it is. Bunch of dudes who love to grab each other ass and play around and act like it's the place to be. Because for some people, even in the communities we come from, man, going to prison is a rite of passage for a lot of niggas. Even going to juvenile hall. I'll never forget, man, one of the homies, man, they was saying we was in there clowning, or no, we weren't even clowning. We was just in there just talking. He was like, man, oh, you ain't never been to a motherfucking, you ain't never been to jail. You ain't never been to, what's that shit, to YA? You ain't never been to that shit? Like, hell no. Nigga, for what? Oh, man, oh, you a square, man. Like, man, nigga, if you don't get the fuck out of here. Like, nigga, you was a slave. Nigga, I'm not no slave to no white man ass shit. I'm like, you niggas crazy, but it's a lot of niggas who think you're supposed to go to jail. It's black folks who think this shit. Picasso in the building, salute. And I had to wake the homie up from saying that kind of stupid shit. But the nigga, his experience is on. And a lot of motherfuckers I grew up around who think this is their rite of passage into being some tough guys. You hear dudes here on the internet, young dudes who speak this shit and think it's their rite of passage. The rite of passage ain't education. The rite of passage ain't fucking income. It ain't a job. That's why these fools so behind on shit. They rite of passage is showing the white man and this and that shit. Because says my school was prepping us says to go to prison. Man, I think that's some shit niggas go overboard with school being the school to prison pipeline, and that's some bullshit. That's some shit that was fashionable. It sounded cool and all that shit, and it's not the case in all situations. You can go to school and gain an education. Even if you go to some of the worstest of schools, you still gain an education, and that education is still used to just picking up a book. And it's just about finding ways to enrich people. If you ain't enriching people, then people get enriched by the streets. And when you look at the streets is enriched by people who come from failed ass households. So let me continue on. So the defendant, Christopher Enriquez, has killed his pregnant wife and their 2-year-old daughter. Says he stipulated at trial that he killed the victims with malice aforethought. So he plotted this shit. Why is he alive? Because California got these bitch-made people who let these people stay alive, these stupid-ass scientific psychologist dumbasses. So he stipulated at trial that he killed the victims, which is his family, with malice aforethought, but asserted that the murders were not premeditated, says, and were instead the unplanned result of a fit of rage. Let me get out here. It says the jury convicted defendant of 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder for the baby, I guess. It says found true of multiple murder special circumstances and returned a verdict of death. It says the appeal is automatic. So here is the procedural history. So it's on October 10th of 1996. So what is that? I'm 96. I'm probably 15 years old during this time. Since the grand jury of Contra Costa County indicted defendant Christopher Enriquez, says for the first-degree murder of his wife, Carmen Enriquez, says with an enhancement for personal use of a deadly or dangerous weapon. Says first-degree murder of their daughter, Zora Enriquez, and that's crazy, a 2-year-old baby. It says in second-degree murder of a fetus Carmen was carrying. The indictment alleged as a special circumstance that the defendant committed multiple murders. Later amended, says the indictment also alleged that the defendant has suffered a prior strike, for a serious felony in New York. Let's go down. Says the defendant admitted that he killed his pregnant wife and daughter, but denied it was premeditated. He go to with the defendant's statement. Here's a quote from the defendant. It says that he killed each of the victims. Says that each and all of the killings were unlawful, that each and all of the killings were done with malice aforethought, and that each and all of the killings were done willfully. So the defendant also stipulated that he had been convicted of second-degree robbery in New York on April 27, 1994, served the term of 18 months, and was released on parole on July 28, 1995. So this thing, he didn't take no time to go over here and kill these people. Defendant was on parole at the time the murders were committed in August of 1996. In July 1996, Carmen and Zoro spent some time at the home of Carmen's father, Harold Jones. Jones learned that the defendant intended to rob banks and called him on the telephone to relay to him the consequences and the efforts of robbing banks and the effort it would have on his family and himself. So so this fool doing this shit because he needs money. Hold on, let me tell my daughter again. So this fool is out here robbing the banks because of money. Like this going to help his financial problems. Like, and then you make it worse to take out your family. Because I guess he felt less of a man. He can't take care. That's the problem with them people who come from these other countries and shit, these dudes. So her father knew about this shit. Her father should have killed this fool. So let me see. Let me make sure I read that. So Carmen Harold Jones, father Harold Jones, says learned that the defendant intended to rob banks and called him on the phone to relay to him the consequences of and the effects of robbing banks and the effects it would have on his family and himself. The defendant became very defensive and boisterous and said Jones was intervening in his business. The conversation deteriorated and ended quickly. Says the next day, Jones's wife, Mona Lisa Jones, look at her name, says called the defendant trying to patch things up, and the defendant repeated that this is my business. So now he's enraged that her family's in here speaking on it, and he's a dude, a weak-minded ass fool. Says in mid-July, the defendant spoke to Carmen's best friend, Angelique Foster, and said that Carmen was going crazy, telling people that he was going to rob banks. Carmen should learn to shut her fucking mouth up. And her parents handled that shit wrong. Her parents handled this shit wrong. Stay out his business. Hey, turn off that light, close his door, dude. Says the defendant was irritated and angry. Says the defendant's younger brother, Francisco Henriquez, testified that in late spring of 1996, the defendant had said that he wanted to kill Carmen because she doesn't listen. I told you, I knew this was what it was. Just the mentality of motherfuckers. She gets pregnant, fall in love with the wrong type of motherfucker. Says about a month before the murder, says defendant repeated that if Carmen did not stop talking, he will kill her. She talking too fucking much. This is my thing. Like, I ought to be doing self-defense counselor and just talking to stupid ass people before they become victims and shit they can prevent. Defendant's mother, Deborah Henriquez, testified that the defendant told her in July that his neighbor, Gregory Morton, had come to their house with a gun and told the defendant that he should teach his wife not to talk so much. That's these old foreigners who are very abusive towards women and shit like that. And like I said, even with the African food, the older African food, talking about he won't bring his wife to America because that's the moment she get here, she stopped listening. And them motherfuckers is about striking they chicks. Let me see. So she will not see. Says teach his wife not to talk so much. Says Morton declared that he was not going. They was not going back to prison, and he did not like the idea of Carmen talking about his business. Carmen took Zora and fled to her mother's house. So she left. And this is the other thing. When people be trying to get out the relationships, they just make this shit over dramatic. They make it to where they can erase the other person. They end up, like I be watching the news out here, just in the last month, they had a bunch of these people separating, moving out. And then they let the person come to collect some shit, and that shit blow up, and they end up killing the motherfucker. Like, motherfuckers just, and then you deal with these weak ass, suck ass people, man, who don't know how to end relationships. You don't own a motherfucker. You don't have control of motherfuckers. Some of you dudes who even become a husband to a lot of these chicks. You become the boyfriend to a lot of these chicks. You don't own the bitch. She can have her walking papers. Let her go. Otherwise, you're just a scumbag motherfucker who belong in prison, but should be hung. All right, so continue on. It says on July 26, 1996, defendant in Morton says robbed the bank in San Francisco and obtained $9,054. On July 31st, 1996, the defendant in Morton robbed another bank in San Francisco and obtained $179,397. That was a hell of five. Bank robbery probably turned the motherfucker on to not being able to stop that shit. And that's a lot of money in the $97. It says Deborah testified that in July 1996, defendant came into some money. Says defendant said he had gotten a boxing contract, says his manager had given him an advance payment. So this fool was a boxer. Says defendant told his mother that Carmen did not believe the money came from a boxing contract and instead believed defendant had gotten the money by committing robbery. So he married Florida Evans and shit. Good Times. He like the version of Good Times that everybody wants to see. When James could get a job, they'd rather see him, do criminal shit, get the money in Florida. Oh, Lord, James, take the money back. Carmen's cousin, Trinice White, testified that Carmen and Zora stayed with her for 3 days in July of 1996. Carmen seemed abnormal and withdrawn and said that defendant was into heavy stuff, says, but did not elaborate. Yeah, she on her Florida Evans shit. Says in August of 96, defendant Carmen Zorro says went to Disneyland for several days. Damn, so they had all that bread, I guess, from this food. Defendant Carmen and Zorro says went to Disneyland for several days. Says accompanied by defendant's mother, sister, and younger brother. Defendant paid for the trip. Says they returned home on Sunday, August 11, 1996. At the airport, defendant told his mother that he was thinking about going to New York. Carmen's sister-in-law, Hadia Jones, testified that she spoke to Carmen on the telephone on Monday, August 12, 1996, the day she was killed. Carmen said, Hadia, things are very bad right now. Hadia heard defendant yell in the background. Carmen said she had to go, and the conversation ended. Carmen putting their business out there, and she knows she got a insecure-ass fool in the house with her. Let me see. I probably don't need to go through all this. Let me see. It's pretty detailed shit. And it's sad that, you know, her mishandling and talking too much led to this punk acting this way. It says the day after they returned, so August 12, 1996, the day after they returned from Disneyland, Deborah spoke to the defendant on the telephone at about 5:30 p.m. He sounded troubled. Deborah invited him to come to her house. Says when he arrived, he appeared intoxicated and was incoherent. He looked sick and a bit dazed. Says he threw up. Says began mumbling. She just doesn't listen. He says and cried out for Zora. Said the defendant's brother Francisco said the defendant was different than Francisco had ever seen him. Defendant would not talk to Francisco. Francisco speculated at trial that at this point the defendant realized what he had done. The defendant would sporadically begin to cry and ask where Zora was, calling for Zuzu. Piece of shit. Next morning, Deborah went to work, says, and spoke to the defendant on the telephone. She told him she had called Carmen, but had not reached her. Says the defendant says, well, she's not going to return your calls. When Deborah asked why, the defendant said, Carmen's dead. I killed her. Deborah asked where Zora was, and the defendant replied that he had killed her as well. Piece of shit. Deborah returned home and asked the defendant what happened, and the mother ain't shit neither. So the defendant said he and Carmen had argued, says, when they returned from the airport. The next day, he awoke and heard Carmen talking to someone on the telephone, which was his sister. The defendant says she just, you know, didn't listen. She just didn't know how not to stop talking about things. And then come on, girl. Fuck, man. Why you gotta talk? Like you got a criminal motherfucker you fucking with. You on the phone talking to people. And so this fool, like, come on, lady. And this for girls that are living. You caught up in this shit. You want to fuck with motherfuckers that act like street hustlers. And these motherfuckers crack under pressure, doing everything good when the crime is going right. But these some of the most erratic, all over the place ass people. And they will kill you. Says she just, you know, didn't listen. She just didn't know how not to stop talking about things. The defendant became angry because she was talking about their business, and it really shouldn't have been. She really shouldn't have been talked about. The next thing the defendant knew, says he was choking Carmen. Zora woke up. Said the defendant claimed that said that while he was hitting Carmen with a hammer, Zora got in the way. Lying ass dude. Says Deborah told the defendant, says to go to the police, says, but the defendant said he could not do that because he was on parole. Says he said that he would never be in a cage again. Well, then why you didn't kill yourself, fool? Says after the defendant finished talking about, you know, how bad he felt and everything, and the fact that he missed Zora, says, and he wanted his little girl, says he just laid back and says he laid back and he sat up from the pavement, and he says, oh, by the way, I robbed the bank. So the defendant said he could not believe he had killed his wife and daughter. Says, but stated he killed Carmen because she wouldn't stop blabbing her mouth. He had told Carmen he was planning to rob a bank, and she was upset. Said, yeah, you got Florida Evans. He married the Florida Evans ass chick. Says the morning of the murder, says he became enraged when Carmen continued blabbing about his business to her friends. Says Deborah reported the crimes to the police after the defendant left. She told the police, says she thought the defendant might have gone to New York. Police officers entered the defendant's apartment shortly after 2 p.m. on Tuesday, August 13, 1996, and found Carmen's body covered or wrapped, says, in a bed covering. Says she was lying face down on a bed in a pool of blood. Says her wrists and ankles were bound, and there was a plastic bag near her mouth. Zora's body was in a large box nearby, also wrapped in a blanket. An autopsy of Zora revealed skull fractures caused by at least 2 blows. Oh, this nigga's foul as fuck. And them people in prison ain't gonna do shit to him because they know different than him. Says possibly from a hammer. Says that was found at the scene. Says bruises on Zora's neck were consistent with strangulation. So he choked his daughter out too. Says there were multiple lacerations and abrasions on Zora's face, some of which could have been inflicted with the clawed end of the hammer. Oh man. Carmen's hands were tied behind her back with a telephone cord. Her feet were bound together with shoelaces. She had been manually strangulated. Says her face was swollen and bruised, consistent with having been kicked. She had defensive wounds on her arms and 2 large bruises on her scalp. Since Carmen was obviously pregnant, says, and carrying an 8-month-old fetus, so she's almost ready to drop. And this pussy ass dude did that shit. Says the defendant was arrested, says when he disembarked from an airplane at LaGuardia Airport in New York. So he's trying to flee back home. Says he was carrying nearly $50,000 in cash. The defendant waived his Miranda rights, says, and admitted that he had killed Carmen and Zora. Says at the police station, the defendant signed a 5-page confession. And this is what I hate when I see people like show these videos when they're seeing the cops rustle somebody down and going to handcuff somebody. Man, stay the fuck out the goddamn way. Shut your monkey ass fucking mouth. You don't know what the fuck is going on and just film this shit. But outside the way, get out the way, because you might be filming the cops arresting one of these kind of piece of shit ass people. Motherfuckers act like they got so much hate for police, but think nothing of these kind of motherfuckers. And be talking about freeing these type of people. Like, shut the fuck up. Sit your monkey ass back before cops shoot your bitch ass or beat your motherfucking ass, and you ain't gonna do nothing to them. Let them film this shit, record it, tag the goddamn car. All the cars are labeled with numbers. The cops got fucking ID badge on them, name badge, whatever you call these fucking things they wear. And it's simple as that. But if a motherfucker ain't committed no shit, they wouldn't be resisting like that. You deal with some of these people who commit crimes and shit and lie so much, and then half of them ain't gonna do nothing but become snitch ass people. All right, so continue on. This old dirtbag ass dude, man, a dirtbag dude. But I wish this girl wasn't doing this shit. I wish she wasn't running her mouth. I wish she wasn't doing that shit, man. So here we are. So the defendant waived his Miranda rights, all that shit. Says admitted that he killed Carmen at the police station. The defendant signed a 5-page confession in which he admitted having robbed a bank, says, on July 31st, 1996, and telling his wife at length about the robbery. I mean, he came up. Like, she should just been quiet. If they would have, damn, I wish she didn't do that shit. She must have been raised in the suburbs, man. All right, hold on, where I'm at. I lost my place. So says he then took the family to Disneyland. The defendant stated that after they returned on August 12, 1996, he started arguing with his wife. He continued, she left the house to cash a check. Says that she left the house to cash checks. Says after my wife left, says I suffocated. Oh, you bitch ass dude. I suffocated my daughter Zora, says, who had been playing. You bitch. Says I brought her over to the bed. Says put her to the bed. Put a pillow over her face. Says until she was not breathing anymore. Says I covered Zora with a sheet completely. Says and left her there. Says when my wife returned. Says I took the money. Says from her. Says I took the money from her and just started beating her. Says she is 7 months pregnant. Says I put a plastic bag over her face, says, and kept it there until she died. Dragged her body into my daughter's room. Says I left the body of my wife on the floor and cover her with a quilt. Says after I killed my daughter and wife, says I went to my mother's house. So I guess his mother is in LA too. Says the next day police began. Oh, so sorry. The next day police again interviewed the defendant. And he admitted having robbed another bank about 2 to 4 weeks prior to the July 31st robbery. Says he identified Gregory Morton. So he's snitching. Look at this bitch ass. This type of shit these bitch ass dudes do. So he gonna identify the other dude who got away. Man, Gregory, we caught Greg. I'm gonna tell on you too, Greg. Says he identified Gregory Morton. Says as his accomplice in the robberies. The defendant also admitted having killed his daughter. Says by striking her multiple times in the face and head with a hammer. An audio tape of the defendant's statement was played to the jury. Says on August 5th, 1998. The defendant was awaiting trial. The defendant and 4 other inmates attempted to escape custody by prying open a cell window. Prosecution argued the escape attempt showed the defendant's consciousness of his guilt. All right, so that's that on what this peon ass dude then did. Sad ass shit, real sad shit. Especially these people do that shit to kids and shit. So this is the scumbag here. May he die fucking vicious death. Dumb motherfucker. But I wish that chick wasn't running her mouth, man. We got this fool, Francis G. Hernandez. He got 2 victims, committed his crime in 1981. He was sentenced July 12th, 1983, committed his crime in Los Angeles County. So this is in the early days before the real explosion of drugs down in LA. It says Hernandez raped, sodomized, and killed 2 young women in attacks 5 days apart. Let me see if I find this nasty, non-pussy getting ass dude story, which leads him to doing this kind of shit. Just a pathetic piece of shit. Let me see if I can find this story. Let me see. This is in Los Angeles. Hold on. Los Angeles. Oh, no, not find a lawyer. Sorry. Let me back up. Here we go. Let's see. Nope, I'm not seeing his. Let me go back up here, type it in here. Just 1 second. Want to look into his case. Hernandez appeals to the second court, confessed to walking through. All right, here we go. I think this is it here. Let's see. Is this his case? Really red. Yep, this is it. All right, here it is. So he did this in Long Beach. All right, so I found the case on this dude, Francis Hernandez. So in Long Beach, let me see where in Long Beach. Like I said, that was my place I lived before moving out here. So it was in the winter of 1981. Francis Hernandez brutally raped, sodomized, and strangled to death 2 women. Edna Bristol and Kathy Ryan. Says Hernandez committed the crimes 5 days apart in a strikingly similar manner. Says including strangling the victims. What is that? Mutilating their bodies. Says and leaving them near schools in Long Beach, California. Nasty ass dude. Says after his arrest, Hernandez confessed, walking the police through every detail of his crimes and his thoughts and motivation as he committed them. His motivation, he wasn't getting no pussy. Says in April 1983, a jury convicted this scumbag on 2 counts each: first-degree murder, forcible rape, says enforceable sodomy, sentenced to death. Imagine, because this is what it's with me, man. Fuck these people. Is the fact that you imagine you go through this shit. You got to sit through trial, and they got to go through this shit. You got to go through trial and listen to them speak about how this fool did this shit. Listen to not listen. I mean, them show you crime scene photos of your loved one. You have to see that shit. Also, before I got on here, I was looking at a story that occurred in Palmdale. It was dealing with this one chick who kills this lady. I didn't get through the whole story, but she tried to blame it on the chicks. I don't know if they were married or whatnot. He was like a Haitian dude or something. They thought he did it. This chick acting like she come in the house, find her friend on the ground dead. When she looking through the house, she see the husband upstairs and he come running after her and she escapes. She run to the police station, blood over her. The story didn't match up. They find out the dude is all the way down there in LA by her mom's house, and it leads them back to this chick. So I got finished watching that one. I don't know if that lady's on this death row's list neither. But like I said, ain't too many black women on death row in California. So the murder of Bristol and Ryan. January 1981, Bristol says Edna Bristol's new body was found near a middle school in Long Beach, California. 5 days later, Kathy Ryan's new body was found near a high school in the same city. So they didn't say what high school. I don't know. It was Polly, Wilson, Jordan. It says, according to a pathologist, Bristol and Ryan says both died of asphyxiation due to strangulation or suffocation, and their bodies suffered extremely similar and extremely rare trauma to the anal and vaginal areas, says suggesting a large object consisting with a baseball bat had been inserted. Like, this is a sick-minded motherfucker to want to do that shit to a woman's genitalia. Says their bodies were mutilated, says with bite marks on their breasts. Says in their pubic hairs, was singed. Says Bristol had ligature marks, says around her wrist and ankles. Ryan's nose was fractured, says, and a tic-tac-toe pattern had been carved into her abdomen post-mortem. So it was on February 4th, 1981. Hernandez was arrested for the crime. So let's see, James. So about a month later, they found this dumb motherfucker. Hernandez gave a detailed tape confession, says he chillingly recounted not only the horrific acts, but also the thoughts and feelings that went through his mind as he committed the crimes. Hernandez explained that on the night of Bristol's death, he was in a weird mood, says, and decided to find a homosexual to beat up on. Says he found the male victims, beat him up, says, and robbed him. Says for the last $10. Says when he was done, Hernandez was still feeling frustrated. Says it was then that he picked up Bristol hitchhiking. Yeah, this motherfucker just on one. Says he became angry, says, when Bristol started telling him about all her problems. Bitch, I got the problem. I'm acting weird. I'm feeling weird. I want to hear your problems. So he tripped on her. So he became angry. She told him all about her problems, why she hitchhiking, and she fucked up hitchhiking and jumping in this motherfucker. He got a van of all cars. She jumped into a nigga's van. Bristol, what the fuck was you thinking? Says, and order her out of his van. Oh, this old kidnapping motherfucker, she was so bad, he tried to kick her out the van. Says when and then the dumb bitch refused to get out the van. Man, what the what the fuck, man? I be just saying, man. The victims in a lot of shit just be stupid as fuck, man. Says when she refused, says he began to hit her, says, and physically drag her out. Says Bristol then pleaded that she do anything. And after he thought about that for a minute, he decided to drive to another location. Once parked, he ordered Bristol to get in the back of the van, says where there was no exit, and to take off her clothes. Hernandez explained that he had intended to let her out, says, or let her go after they had sexual intercourse, says, but he went berserk, says, because she was kicking and screaming and says, and damaging his van. She was damaging my pedophilic van, my van of pedophilic kidnapping. Let me see, where does I leave off at? Draw to another. She went berserk, damaging this weird motherfucker's van. Says he taped her ankles, wrist, and mouth, says, and mouth around the hair, says, and then, as he described it, I proceeded to fuck her, says, I proceeded to fuck her in her ass. And he telling the police this shit. And imagine the family's going to have to hear this shit in court. Fuck her in her ass. Says he pushed her body against the hot engine cowlings of his van. Says to burn her nipples because he was mad at her. He then pushed some pieces of material over Bristol's face. Says while hurting her by the throat until she stopped moving. Says he threw her body out of the van onto the lawn of a middle school in Long Beach, California. Thinking Bristol was still alive, Hernandez flicked matches onto her pubic area and another match on her nipples to hurt her. Says for kicking him in the nuts. Says in kicking a hole in his van. She should have got her ass out his fucking van, man. Says Hernandez's confession also walked police through the night of Ryan's death. Says he had gone to play pool with friends, including Ryan, so he knew her. Says after the group disbanded, says he went over to Ryan's house and invited her into his van. Says when he tried to kiss her, she sort of resisted. Says she also refused his orders, says to take off her clothes, but then said, oh, okay. Let's go down. Says when he got angry and pushed her arms back, says at one point he thought she wanted it in her ass. So he a homo. That's why he beat up the gay dude. Then when he get these chicks, he want to fuck them in the ass. He a homo. Says a sodomizer. So he stuck something up her ass. Says like Bristol, Ryan was screaming and kicking. And in response, he grabbed her, held on to her, and then she grabbed, and then she gargled, says she spurted up. He thought he was choking her too hard, says, and let go. Hernandez told her to mellow out, says, but when she started screaming again, he grabbed her throat, says, with one hand and covered her mouth with the other hand. Because she started struggling really bad, he realized he must have used too much pressure, but then she stopped struggling. Says he burned Ryan's pubic hair with a lighter, says, and decided to cut her stomach and nipples to make the two bodies look different from one another so the police could not link the cases together. Hernandez took Ryan's body to the high school because it was his understanding that the police sometimes thinks criminals return to the scene of the crime, and they might have been there waiting for him. Says had he gone back to the first location where Bristol's bodies was left. Where he left Bristol's body. This is the trial. I want to read the trial. We already seen what he did. He's a piece of shit. He probably a homo. He probably in prison selling his ass. Let me say we got some more comments in the chat. And that's what Picasso talking about schools preparing you for prison, which I disagree. It says homeschooling is popular now, says with educated parents or private schools, says which provide a clear passage to bigger incomes and careers. Says I have a long story to prove it, says, but I'm driving. And Jashawn says, I don't think they get housed with the non-death row inmates. And he's saying salute to my brother Jashawn. Wherever they get housed, man, they should be fucking definitely killed by the system. It shouldn't take that long to execute these people. So let's go back into this sick-minded piece of shit, Francisco Hernandez, and his parents should be proud of him. All right, so he killed those two ladies out there in Long Beach. This is this dirtbag motherfucker. Then you got George Hernandez, who I don't know if they related. He got one victim. He like a gang member. He did this for the gang. He committed his crime in 2004. He was sentenced. It took almost 6 years to put this fool, 5 or 6 years. January 29, 2010 in Riverside County. Says on orders from the Mexican Mafia, Mexican Mafia leaders, Hernandez killed another gang member believed to be a police informant. Gaining rank in the gang. Says he claimed he feared for his own life if he disobeyed. And that's the crazy part with a lot of the Mexican gangs is how they make these fools do slave shit through fear. They tell you to do some shit or they're gonna kill you. That's like the worst shit that being part of any organization can put you through. That's the same thing I say with like some jobs, the way that a lot of shit in the system where you go get a job, the first thing you worry about is niggas trying to get you fired. You go to the military, the worst thing you deal with them niggas trying to get you dishonorably discharged. It's like I don't like being around this shit. That's why I've always stood up against that shit. I always kind of had the mindset of standing up against what's wrong. And a lot of that shit is wrong. You have a motherfucker join your gang to order them to do shit that you won't do, and then you put threats on them. Like, fuck, you gonna make a threat? Okay, we know each other family, go get yours. Like, nigga, you ain't got a family, you probably just don't care about them. Michael Hill, 2 victims. He committed his crime in 1985. He was sentenced January 24th, 1988 in Alameda County. I think that's up north as well. It says Hill killed a man and his 4-year-old son during a robbery of a Oakland jewelry store, and he deserves to die with his stupid ass. Probably a damn heroin fiend. What kind of ever drugs he's on in 85? Probably, I don't know. Yeah, crack may have been hidden back in 85. God damn, this nigga got 9 people. Oh, this nigga serial killer, Ivan J. Hill, 9 victims. Committed his crime in 1993. Damn, this nigga was out for a long time. This fool was not sentenced until March 28, 2007. This is in LA. Oh, yeah, we definitely pulling this story up. This psychopath motherfucker. So Hill, dubbed the 60 freeway killer. He raped and strangled 6 prostitutes in Orange County in 93 and 94. It says his link to the crimes was discovered 10 years later through DNA evidence while he was in state prison for armed robbery. Says he pleaded guilty, says 2 years later, to killing 2 other women in 86 and 87, and in 79 was convicted for the murder of a Glendora liquor store clerk during a robbery. This fool can't get right. He's just a fucked up person. Let me see. They definitely got a story on this idiot. Let's see. And why is this motherfucker still alive? Who knows? The people who run the state of California. Let's see. Got his DNA. He can't explain himself up out of that one. He did that shit. All right, here go Ivan Hill. So this fool is straight up serial killer, most definitely. They got a Wikipedia on him. I can get a quick summary of this one and how was he caught. So let's go to Ivan Hill. Known as the 60 freeway killer, says an American serial killer who raped and murdered at least 8 women lost. He probably linked to more murders too. They just haven't linked them to him. Says Hill dumped his victim's corpse along the California State Route 60, known as the East-West Highway, says, contributing to his nickname. Hill was captured based on DNA profiling, says, nearly a decade after his last murder, and was sentenced to death in 2007, which death in California nothing but life. It says Hill also participated in the 79 murder. Says in the 79 murders, says is one of 6 men known for committing the Southside. Says known for committing the Southside Slayer murders in South Los Angeles. Says he committed at least one of those killings. Says an investigators suspect he has been involved in even more. And the Southside Slayer is that motherfucker. What's that dude name? The Southside Slayer is the other dude who's on this list. Wait, hold on. Let me pull his name up. His name is Chester something. He might have been from A-Tray as well. I think he's from the same area where the Grim Sleeper's from. Hold on, let me see. I don't know if y'all may have seen the one serial killer. He got the long scar on his face. His full name was... the Southside Slayer name was... boom, boom. Where's his full name? Chester Turner. So the Southside Slayer was a collective epithet used by the media and police to what was initially believed to be a single serial killer who killed upwards of 100 predominantly black women lost. This is not more. So multiple serial killers that kill people within this corridor of South Central from the 80s to 90s. So he's one. So it's multiple Southside Slayers, which just shows how LAPD didn't give a fuck when the victims are black and not from fucking West Hollywood and shit. Says it later turned out that the killings were committed by several different unrelated murderers who coincidentally operate in the same area and frame time. So we got this is what makes LA a wicked ass place. So you got where this history of like the gang culture and murders from that shit. And then you get people who are real psychopaths who are fucking serial killers and shit. So they got multiple people on this shit. This Lorraine Cranes, Ivan Hill, who we own, Michael Hughes, who I think we may cover him. You got Lonnie Franklin, the Grim Sleeper, Daniel Lee Siebert, and then you got Chester Turner, who is the other guy I'm talking about, who's on this list, who's linked to, like, I think they convicted Chester Turner for like 14. So I didn't know this was multiple serial killers. So this fool is one of them and shit. Crazy motherfucker. He's born in Los Angeles in 61. Says Ivan grew up in a socially disadvantaged environment. Says what, and it's crazy to think that when you look at South Central and they talk about from the 60s, which is the predominance of black people coming in here, when this shit thrived as white community and shit, and how fast things left to where families in here in the 60s and definitely going to 70s are now struggling in the same city that thrived. And it just shows how they can take money, pull the resources, place it here. That's why I don't like certain shit you hear me about how these people who earn higher incomes but don't do a fucking thing. You on the Beverly Hills and these other areas, they don't really do hard work, but they're the ones how incomes are distributed in the weird racist, race-based manners inside this country. And this is one of the things that Trump tries to protect by wanting to remove things and calling shit DEI when these are some of the lazy, most incompetent pieces of shit that makes America one of the most ineffective advanced nations in the world. But it's also a practice across the scope of European influence countries. So he grew up in this disadvantaged environment, says, with a father who was aggressive towards his wife, says, and children. So maybe he picked up on this aggression towards women from his father. And that's the thing about fathers not being like that around their children. On Christmas of 68, Hill's father shot his mother in the face. Oh, you fucking piece. So he grew up around pieces of shit ass people in the face with a 22 caliber rifle and was sent to prison. Despite the serious injuries, Hill's mother survived and later divorced his father. She better had. Ivan ended up acting as a caregiver to his siblings by the time he was 10. And his father, a piece of shit. Bitch ass dude don't realize the effects you're gonna have on your kids doing that shit. And that's these old weak ass dudes who can't learn to let a woman fucking go. Says he'll spend his teens in Pomona, attending Pomona High School. During his school years, says Ivan was involved in sports, being elected team captain of the school football team. Says most of his acquaintances from those years spoke very positively of him. Says in 1978, says a year before graduation, Hill became addicted to drugs, says, and lost interest in studying. Suffering from financial difficulties, Hill began leading a criminal lifestyle in early 79, committing several thefts. And that's the one thing, man. It's just these one moment that become these turning points where they talk about that fork in the road shit. And had he not let other things affect him and he just stayed on that same path, he could have become something. But he let that shit get the best of him. Who knows? Maybe he went to a party, motherfuckers getting high, passed him some shit. He getting high to get his mind off of that shit. His criminal career since 79, says, along with accomplices, committed several robberies. January 23rd, 17-year-old Hill and accomplice 18-year-old Vinson Myers robbed the liquor store in Glendora, says, during which Myers killed Thomas Lavelle, says, and seriously injured Keith Hunt. Says for this crime, Vincent Myers was sentenced to life imprisonment with no chance of parole. Says as a minor, Hill was found guilty of complicity in murder, says, but received a short sentence due to cooperating in the investigation. So he turned snitch. Or maybe he just gave what really happened. During his detention, Hill graduated from high school, received his high school diploma, says he later studied at one of the local colleges, after which he received parole and was released in the mid-1980s. After his release, Hill spent a lot of time in San Gabriel Valley, constantly changing his place of residence. Says he worked as a day laborer, storekeeper, and forklift driver at various times. In the late 80s, he was rearrested for theft and convicted. Hill was released again in February 1993. Having problems with employment, says he was engaged in low-skilled labor and soon returned to his criminal lifestyle. In 1993, he committed several additional robberies. He was arrested in early 1994, convicted and sentenced to 10 years. So that's 94. So this is probably where his DNA should start coming up. This is while serving his 1994 sentence, a blood sample was taken from Hill. Says he was due to be released in February. Woo! Nigga was about to walk out of the prison. Ain't this about a bitch? But he didn't know what science was gonna bring to his stinking ass. He was about to be released. And in March of 2003, Hill's DNA test showed his profile corresponding to that of an unidentified serial killer who had left DNA evidence during attacks on women in different suburbs in Los Angeles County from November 93 to January 94 and in February 86 and 87. Here go victim, Lorena Patrice Reed, says on February 11, 1986, says the body of Lorna Reed, 35, was found strangled in the isolated area of Frank G. Bonelli Regional Park. It says Reed, a sex worker, was considered to be the 16th victim of a string of similar murders. Rhonda Jackson says on January 26, 1987, Rhonda Jackson's new body was found in a dumpster in Palomares Park. I don't know if I'm saying the name right. Palomares Park in Pomona. Says, like Reed, she had been strangled. Betsy Sue Harris says on November 1st, 1993, Betsy Harris, 37, was found strangled to death behind an industrial building in Diamond Bar. See, I be wondering, man, I don't want to ask my old chick mother was killed by like a serial killing type dude. I be wondering if it's like which one of these serial killers she ended up being killed by. Says Harris was a former student of Chaffey College, says, and had grown up in Pomona. She was dying of cancer. Damn, 37 dying of cancer, says, and after spending time in jail for petty crimes, had resolved to spend the time she had left being a good mother. And she lost her life to this fucking dude. Roxanne Brooks Bates says on the November 5th, 1993, Roxanne Bates, also known as Roxanne Brown, 31, was found strangled, says, with either a cord or cloth in Chino. Bates of Montclair says was a sex worker in Los Angeles area. She was convicted twice for prostitution in 91 and twice more the year she was murdered. You got Helen Ruth Hill, says on November 14, 1993, the body of Helen Hill, also known as Helen Ruth, 36, was found dumped in the industrial complex parking lot in the City of Industry. Says her hands were bound behind her back, says her mouth was taped, and she had been strangled to death. I'm just adding words. She was been strangled with 2 claws. She was on probation for a drug violation at the time of her murder. Says, but her West Covina roommate described her as being a devoted mother and caretaker to her elderly mother. But with America and the way America is, they be out here having to sell their ass to make money because America's a fucked up ass place ran by old suit wearing, criminal, bigoted ass white dudes who a lot of you motherfuckers love to vote for. Bonnie Goldsmith on November 16, 1993. Donna Goldsmith, 35, West Covina, was found strangled in the industrial area of Pomona. A strip of duct tape with a lipstick stain was found in a trash bin near her body. Says a piece of rope, shoelaces, and a sheet of black fabric were used to strangle her. Goldsmith was a wife and mother of 3 children and worked as a medical technician before descending into a downward spiral of addiction and petty crime. Fuck, man. It'd be like, what are these points that turn a person where they go down these pathways and lose their mind and shit? Says she had been arrested earlier that year for shoplifting, says just a few blocks from where her body was found. Cheryl Sayers on December 30th, 1993. Cheryl Sayers, 34, was found strangled in Ganesha Park in Pomona, says her neck, wrists, and ankles were bound. Deborah Denise Brown says on January 12, 1995, the body of Denise Brown was found strangled, says with a piece of blue fabric, says around her neck in San Antonio Park in Ontario. Says like other victims, Brown had a history of sex work. In the trial, says Ivan began the trial on January 23rd, 2006. On the first day of the trial, Gruesome images of the victims presented in a giant screen cause women to run out of the courtroom. So this is what I say, when the families go into this shit, they got to display the crime scene because it's for the jury, but the families in there watching who are related to these motherfuckers, and that shit affected them. So someone probably never seen this shit till they go to court of how this person who murdered their family members left them fucked up. So they said they were running, this shit was so gruesome, they was running out of the fucking courtroom. Voice recordings of Hill taunting phone says, so he was fucking with the police, almost like how the Grim Sleeper did. So these fools love to play taunt. You have many of these serial killers who will do that shit. You have fucking the what is that fool called? BTK killer would torture the police. Was that the case with the Unabomber used to do that shit? You had the Grim Sleeper who were part of this Southside Slayer serial killing league, or I wouldn't make no joke call them a league, but a number of the Southside Slayers. I want to do, but the Southside Slayers should be on this list. So I ain't got to even do a show talking about the Southside Slayers. It's fucked up that we living in this city in Los Angeles and the police quiet when all these fools sitting there murdering all these chicks and shit. So voice recordings of Hill's taunting police calls, says taunting phone calls to the police were played. I did it again, Hill said during a phone call immediately following the murder of Deborah Brown. Says, what's this? Number 5, number 6? Says, I forget. Says, but she's there. Minutes later, he called back. Y'all better catch me before I kill again. Wow, this motherfucker is crazy. Says on November 17, 2006, Hill was convicted of 6 counts of murder for the slayings that occurred between 94 and 93. So during the sentencing phase of the trial, Hill's mother testified, hoping, man, get the fuck out of here. Hoping for leniency, says the physical and mental abuse he endured at the hands of his father. It's crazy that the mother was still living, shit, after being shot in the face. Despite this, January 7th, so the jury ordered death penalty. Don't worry, Mrs. Hill, we'll give him real leniency. Oh, yes, man, we understand. Kill this nigga. Is that lenient enough for your mother? Said death penalty. Says on March 27, 2007, a judge upheld his sentence. Said, bitch, you dying, you punk ass dude. Don't you come back here pleading for no motherfucking plea deal. On November 15, 2009, Hill pleaded guilty to the murders of Lorna Reed in 86 and Rhonda Jackson in 87. As of November 2019, the 58-year-old Hill is still alive and waiting execution, which, because of Newsom and them, whatever that bullshit called, the moratorium, he ain't going to do it. As of May 2024, the 63-year-old Hill is still alive, but has been transferred to the California Healthcare Facility in Stockton, where he must be dying. So these are the Southside Slayers. Let's go to this shit. And go to the Southside Slayer shit. So all these serial killers that were murdering bitches. Oh, let me not say that. Murdering the women out there in Los Angeles. So I don't remember seeing Louise Crane on here. This weird ass fool on there, probably hooked on dope. So this is why you gotta watch these fools. You know, used to be clean. A lot of how they appear starts to change. These fools on dope, probably out here doing weird shit at night. All right, so let's go back to Ivan, wicked ass motherfucker. Says that gang shit was highlighted by this. Says the gang shit overshadowed this. Yeah, that's what they replace a lot of this shit with a lot of these scumbag criminals and try to point on Bloods and Crips, so that way sorry ass prosecutors start coming with these enhancements on if you're in a gang and you commit some shit. Danny Hillhouse, one victim, committed his crime in 1991. He was sentenced October 13, 1992 in Butte County. Hillhouse and his brother drove their victim, who earlier had brought them a beer, says with a $100 bill, to a location near Chico, says where they stabbed him to death and stole his truck. Sorry ass low-life motherfuckers raised by scumbags. And this is Mao Hin. So this is a black dude who, a soldier, was over there fucking his mother in probably Vietnam or some shit. So he got one victim, committed his crime in 2003. He was sentenced February 24th, 2006 in San Joaquin County. Hin, the member, says the member of a Stockton street gang, killed the man during a series of robberies, accosting him and his girlfriend in a park, says where they were taking a walk, and then he shot them. And now his stupid ass will stay on death row and live his life out, or they may just say, today's the day we're gonna poke you with this needle full of drugs and we'll get it put an end to your young ass life. You got Gregory Hines or Gary Hines, two victims, committed this crime in 1986. July 8th, 1988 was a sentence. Sacramento. Man, the northern part of California, y'all up there wicked as fuck. I thought I was gonna see majority LA on this shit, LA County and shit. Majority of people killing motherfuckers are going to, let me not say killing people, being sentenced to death is from Northern California. Hines killed a woman and her 15-year-old daughter, says, in order to steal the family's pink Model T Roadster replica. You dumb motherfucker. And this is shit the sorry ass white news corporations don't cover. They just want to make the Bloods and Crips is tearing their lay up and doing all this shit. Eric Hinton, he got 3 victims. I'm definitely read his shit. Says committed his crime in 1988. Says he was sentenced December 10, 1993. Says about 5 years from the crimes. And he did this in Los Angeles. Hinton killed 3 men during a drug deal at the Best Western Motel. I definitely got to read this one. Let's see, 1988. So this is during the crack shit. So when you get a nigga ain't got the money for the keys, he there to rob shit. So let's see. You ain't got the money for the dope. Let's see. Well, let me see. Probably got to pull his up on Yahoo. Let me go over here. Definitely want to hear this story. Definitely want to hear this one. And let's see. I ain't gonna stay on here too long. Let me get off of here. What time is it? Still good time. By 11:30, I should be ending this one. All right. I see his photo. All right. I see the guy's photo. Let me see. Let me go conviction. See if I can get news on this one. People versus Hinton. Okay, I found it. Sometimes got to type certain language into this shit. All right, here we go. Here we go. Let's see. So he did this in Monterey Park. Let's see. Yep, this is him. This is him. All right, so this is the guy here, Eric Hinton. Did this in 88, shot 3 people to death over a drug deal. So he went in there, yeah, man, I'm gonna buy about 35 keys for y'all. Can you bring them all? I'm gonna have the cash. Psych, here's my gat. All right, so on May 24th, 1998. Sorry, let me read that right. On May 28th, I'm sorry. I'll just be adding shit. Let me slow down with what I'm reading. I'm trying to just get through this shit off fast, and I tend to do it. I'll add shit on there. Adding what I think I saw and just adding onto it. On May 24th, 1988, Landis Barnes, Albert Brown, and Brown's cousin, what is that? Tanoa, says Tanoa Stevenson, says were shot in a Best Western motel room in Monterey Park, says during the drug deal. Do I need to pull up Monterey Park as a reference to its location? I like doing that shit. For the people watching this, everybody got a good reference of Los Angeles or what people perceive to be Los Angeles. Pull up Monterey. Let me go Monterey. Let me get the spelling on Monterey. Let me see. Monterey Park, California. Let's pull that shit up. Let's get a good reference of the city. Here it is right here near East LA. So let's get into where we are located at, where this guy brought these people on, get out of LA, trying to be smarter drug dealers, move out, get away from the LAPD, come out here. So they're going to go out here, get away from the gangs and other possible shit, think you won't be set up this way. So here go Los Angeles, Skid Row, all this other shit, the Crenshaw District, LA, the beach, LAX over here. All right, so Los Angeles, downtown LA, down through here. This area is somewhere, where am I not seeing downtown? So it's downtown LA, somewhere near here. We'll shift over to Monterey. So this area is Monterey near El Monte. East LA. So you got all that shit. Maywood, Huntington Park. So let's pull up some Bell Gardens, Whittier. Well, you remember clowning Fred for being from Whittier and shit, trying to run for electoral office down there. So here we are. So this is where Monterey Park, where they connecting this deal. Let me see. This is probably what that Best Western Motel is. Is probably this shit now. All right, so let's go back into his court report. Let's see, because it says y'all whole state was crooked. I think all states. I just think America's a place where it leads people to committing crimes. Why you get fake politicians acting like they trying to put it in the crime and drug dealing this motherfucker, but go after other countries that ain't known for bringing drugs here. Well, not the countries bringing drug. The American connected whites are the ones who bring drugs here. Says in a motel room in Monterey Park, California, during the drug deal. Says Barnes and Brown died at the scene. Barnes and Browns died at the scene. Stevenson managed to stagger outside, says, but was chased by two men in a silver BMW. Says one of whom exited the vehicle, says pursued him on foot and shot him again fatally, says in a nearby used car lot. That's fucked up, man. These fools really came here just to steal this shit from him. Maribela Santiago says he worked as a runner for Stevenson, who testified under the grant of immunity, identified defendant Steve Hick as having been with Barnes, Browns, and Stevenson at the motel shortly before the murders. Joe Stephen Cunningham says a convicted felon who also testified under the grant of immunity. See, people gonna tell on you for that damn immunity. They don't want to sit in prison. Confirmed that defendant and Hicks says we're in the motel room with Barnes, Brown, and Stevenson when the shooting started. Baron Johansson, who had just purchased some groceries at a nearby market, witnessed two men in a BMW chase Stevenson down. Johansson's description of the BMW's driver says was consistent with Hicks' appearance. His description and the passenger and shooter was consistent with defendant's appearance. After a series of false statements to police following his arrest, defendant eventually admitted being in the motel room with Hicks, during the drug transaction, says when the shooting started, but claimed Hicks was the shooter. Says he also admitted pursuing Stevenson in the BMW. Says but claimed he did so only because Hicks held him at gunpoint. That's what they all say. Man, I did it because nigga put a gun in my head. He wasn't gonna use the gun to kill the motherfucker we need to kill. Who gonna tell on us? He put it to my head to make me shoot him, and then he let me live. Yeah, that shit's like one of the dumbest things these dummies don't think of. Shoot him at gunpoint. He denied shooting anyone and claimed that Hicks alone shot and killed Barnes, Brown, and Stevenson using two different guns. Just go on. Let's see. Oh, they got something about Linwood, so it's something he connected to Linwood. After these police interviews, the defendant was released. What? Police let him go. On August 6, 1989, says he murdered Dwayne Reed at a gas station in Los Angeles. So this nigga get out, and this nigga can't stop from doing fuck shit. He murdered somebody else. Defendant was convicted of this murder, says, which was the basis for the prior murder conviction special circumstances on June 5th, 1992. He was convicted of the Barnes, Browns, and Stevenson murder and sentenced to death on February 25th, 1993. That's y'all fault, dumb fucks. The murders of Barnes, Brown, Stevenson, says in May of 1988, Tanoa Stevenson asked his friend, Joel Stevenson Cunningham, for help in finding a supplier of kilo-sized quantities of cocaine. Cunningham thought immediately of Landis Barnes, says whom he had met a few days earlier. That's always the dangerous part about being in that shit, is meeting these new motherfuckers. Says that at that time, Barnes had said he had friends who could produce kilos of cocaine. Cunningham introduced Barnes to Stevenson and Stevenson's cousin, Albert Brown. Stevenson said he wanted to buy 5 kilos. Barnes said he would need to find out the details such as price, the supplier, and the time and place of the transaction from his people, and then arrange another meeting. Says the next day, Barnes confessed to Cunningham that he was having problems connecting with the people that says that he gets his answers from, and suggested they cruise the neighborhood to try to find the person that they were looking for. Barnes explained that his suppliers would not allow him to deliver the cocaine, and that he says and that the cocaine would be delivered personally by these suppliers. Barnes and Cunningham drove around Linwood until Barnes pointed out defendant and said, "That's him over there." Barnes stopped the car and got out to talk to the defendant while Cunningham stayed in the car. When Barnes returned from talking with the defendant, he told Cunningham that things were going to work out. Barnes called Stevenson, told him he could supply 4 kilos instead of 5 requested, and asked where he wanted the transaction to take place. After Barnes hung up, he told Cunningham that Stevenson had asked to meet the next day at a gas station in the Crenshaw area. Cunningham was to receive $8,000 for his role in introducing the parties, and an additional $500 per kilo from Stevenson if it worked out. Guess that shit didn't work out. Let me go down. Let's go down. So this might be my last one. I'm gonna see what the other people on this list look like. What time is it? Says Cunningham, Stevenson, Brown, and Barnes says waited at the gas station the next day. Says, but no one showed up. No one showed up with the drugs. The principals then arranged to meet at 11 p.m. the next night, May 24th, 1988, at a 7-Eleven in Monterey Park. When Cunningham arrived at the 7-Eleven, Stevenson and Barnes were sitting in Stevenson's black dually truck. Those are some dope ass trucks. Says that the Barnes drove up in his BMW. Defendant and Hicks arrived in different. They arrived in the defendant's Volkswagen Beetle. Defendant spoke first to Barnes and then to Stevenson. It appeared to Cunningham that that defendant was directing Barnes in the transaction. Stevenson told the defendant that it was not cool to conduct the transaction in the parking lot. Steven told the defendant that it was not cool to conduct the transaction in the parking lot. He suggested that they go instead to the nearby Best Western Motel. Mistake made. After Hicks transferred a plastic shopping bag of wrapped packages from defendant's Beetle to Barnes' BMW, defendant and Hicks got in Barnes' cars. Cunningham got in his Jeep, says, and they all followed Stevenson to the motel. Barnes obtained a key from the motel office, opened the room, and entered. Cunningham, Stevenson, and Brown, who carried a bottle of Clorox Bleach to test the purity of the cocaine, followed. Barnes went back outside to see what defendant Hicks were doing. They said they wanted to see the money. So Stevenson called his runner, Maribela Santiago, and asked her to come to the motel. Stevenson had previously given Santiago a black nylon tennis bag with $57,000 in cash. When Santiago drove up, Stevenson, the defendant, walked up to her car. The defendant said he wanted to see the money. Stevenson said he would show it. He would show it to him and unzip the bag. Stevenson tossed one bundle of cash, $5,000, into Maribel's car and took the bag, saying, "Go around." Says, "I'll call you to come back." So they doing legit business. They got the money. It's these scumbag motherfuckers. Says when Stevenson entered the room, Cunningham asked, "Is our girl here?" Stevenson replied that he had sent her back. So a short time later, defendant and Hicks entered the room. Defendant was carrying the shopping bags with yellow wrapped packages inside. Says he placed the bags on the dresser near the Clorox bottles. Barnes and Brown says set to work to test the cocaine while the defendant and Hicks stood near the door. Before the test can be completed, Cunningham heard gunfire. Says he immediately rolled off the bed onto the floor. Stevenson screamed and landed on the top of Cunningham. Cunningham heard 2 quick shots, says, then 6 to 8 more shots, followed by the sounds of footsteps running out the door. Stevenson got up and exited the room, leaving blood on Cunningham's shirt. Says when Cunningham got up, says he saw Brown sprawled halfway off the bed and Barnes on the floor. Said Cunningham a lucky motherfucker, man. Says both had been shot. Says he went to the door, says to look for Stevenson and saw Barnes BMW leaving the hotel driveway instead. So these dudes out here balling and shit, and these dudes, man, foul ass people. That's what was part of that lifestyle. When they talk about the flood of drugs, and now you deal with this type of scandalous shit. Says Cunningham went back in the room, says to gather his rings and his car keys, and drove home in his Jeep. So he just left. He says before leaving, in a kind of a panic, says he dropped the yellow wrap packages into the trash can in the room. Says Cunningham figured that if the shooters had left the packages in the room, says they did not contain cocaine. Cunningham was correct. Says police testing revealed the powder and the wrap packages did not contain any controlled substance. That's how foul these niggas was. They whole time they plotting to kill these dudes, but these are real drug dealers and shit, are purchasers of large quantity of drugs. They're gonna test their shit and all that shit. Had they money, that was legit, and they ran into these clown ass dudes who fucks a lot of things up. They fuck up a lot of organization, a lot of hustle, being just shortchanged pieces of shit. Meanwhile, that's why the black hustle game is all the way fucked up, because you get scandalous ass people like this. So if these drug dealers been more vicious and violent, they should have sprayed these dudes. Says meanwhile, Brett Johansson says, who had been picking up some groceries at a nearby Hughes Market, heard 4 muffled booms. Says, and shortly thereafter saw Stevenson running out of the motel parking lot. Stevenson was yelling, "Somebody help me!" Says, "Please help, please help me!" Says, and trying to flag down a car for help. Johansson also saw 2 African-American men in a silver BMW, tires screeching, come out the motel driveway towards Stevenson. Johansson, who was across Emerson Avenue, says backed up the hill behind the water machine to watch the events unfold. The intersection was very well lit, says, and the water machine did not block his view at all. Some cars slowed down as though to help Stevenson, says, but they sped up and fled when they saw what was going on. So the BMW drove into oncoming traffic on Emerson Avenue to chase Stevenson and try to cut him off. So Stevenson reversed field, says, and fled. So, but the BMW executed a 180-degree turn and followed. 180, a U-turn. So for those who don't know degrees. Says when a yellow station wagon slowed down, Stevenson ran up to the driver's window and asked for help. However, the BMW came sliding alongside the station wagon, practically pinning Stevenson in between. Oh man! And the family got to hear all this shit. Says when the passenger exited the BMW with his gun in the air, the station wagon then took off and Stevenson ran away again. The passenger got back in the BMW. Says which continued the pursuit. Says when the BMW cut Stevenson off again, says he ran into a used car lot, says which had a 12-foot fence at the back. The passenger once again exited the BMW and followed Stevenson into the used car lot. Stevenson pleaded, "Please don't kill me." Says his shoulders were slumped, and it appeared to Johansson that he had given up. Says the passenger reached out with his right hand and picked Stevenson up as if they were buddies. Says and straightened him up. Says the passenger pointed his gun with his left hand at the center of Stevenson's chest and shot him. Stevenson dropped to the ground. So the passenger went back to the BMW, says which had been waiting for him, and took off towards the freeway. So Stevenson crawled towards the streets while Johansson called the police from a nearby gas station. So, man, these niggas are some murderers, homie. Although Johansson did not see the faces of the BMW's occupants, says he could tell that the passenger was of average height, approximately 6 feet tall, 150 to 160 pounds. The defendant's driver's license indicated that he was 6 feet 1 inch and 170 pounds. Johansson also described the passenger hair as being about an inch and a half long and nappy. Nappy headed little Negro, says his defendant here was at the time. So he was a nappy headed Negro. Says Johansson testified that the driver was burlier, says, than the passenger and had short hair. Says this description was consistent with Hicks, says, who was 5 feet 9 inches and 310 pounds and had hair that was shorter than the defendant's. Says Hicks, moreover, was right-handed. Says the party stipulated that defendant was left-handed. So police investigation officer Fishburne, the Monterey Park Police Department, arrived at the intersection of Atlantic Boulevard and Emerson Avenue around midnight, 1 to 2 minutes after receiving the dispatch. She was flagged down by Stevenson, who came out of the used car lot and fell to the ground bleeding. When Fishburne asked what had happened, says frothy blood came out of Stevenson's mouth, and then he died. Johansson directed Fishburne to the Best Western Motel, says, which was next to the used car lot, says, and she followed the blood drops to room 120. Says the door was open. 2 African-American males, Landis Barnes and Albert Brown, were dead. A Clorox bottle was on the dresser. There were bullet holes in the wall. Says a wild powdery substance package like cocaine was in the trash can, which the guy gave the description he threw in the trash when he left, who was the only survivor there. Says there was no money in the room, says, other than cash in the victim's possession. Says and no black athletic bag, nor were there any guns. So these people came here to do actual business. They didn't bring guns with them, none of that. These was actually real street cats, real proper drug dealers is what they were. So that's really all I want to read. Don't need to go anything else. Matter of fact, let me see how did they get caught. Meanwhile, Maribela Santiago says had become concerned that Stevenson had not called and decided to return to the motels. As she drove back, she saw Stevenson's body on the corner. She called Stevenson's girlfriend and brother-in-law, says, while she watched from across the street and saw police arrive. Police investigators found expended bullets underneath the carpeting and inside the walls of the motel room, and blood trails leading to a bullet near the motel swimming pool. Says in a bullet and a puddle of blood in the used car lot. So the firearm expert examined the expended bullets and fragments and determined that at least 2 different guns had been used in the motel room shooting. Autopsy revealed that Albert Brown has suffered 3 gunshot wounds. One in his head and 2 in his chest. The wound, the head wound had been caused by a medium caliber lead bullet. Says stippling around the head wound indicated that the gun had been fired within 6 to 18 inches from Brown's face. Says the chest wounds were caused by copper jacketed lead bullets, and that says and exhibited no stippling. Landis suffered a bullet wound. Says Landis Barnes suffered a bullet wound to the brain, says, which was fatal, and 2 chest wounds. Tinoa Stevenson suffered 5 gunshot wounds, 3 of them fatal. Says the chest wound exhibited markings consistent with a muzzle stamp. So they put it right up on, I guess that's a woman. During police interview on June 1st, 1988, Cunningham identified Eric as having been present at the motel. Further police investigation uncovered defendant's last name. Cunningham then identified defendant's photograph in a 6-pack mug book, says show up, and subsequently identified Hicks as well. On June 8, 1988, police arrested defendant and interviewed him at a Linwood sheriff station. Then this fool from Linwood. Says defendants denied being at the motel. It says he said that Barnes had come by his house with what appeared to be 4 kilos of cocaine and had offered him $3,000 to provide protection during the drug deal. It says, but he had refused to participate and heard later on the news that Barnes had been killed. Lying motherfucker. The next day, the defendant was allowed to talk to us, was to talk with his girlfriend, Tarshay Smith at the Monterey Police Department, but the conversation was secretly taped. During this conversation, the defendant discovered that Smith had undermined his alibi by telling police that he had been at the motel during the shootings. Defendant then requested to meet again with police. During the police interview, the defendant admitted that he had not told the truth during the first interview and offered new accounts. He said that Barnes and a man named Steve from Nixon Gardens had asked him to accompany them to a drug transaction, and that Barnes had driven him to the motel and had rented a room. Defendant denied ever entering the room and said he instead waited in a phone booth across the courtyard while Barnes and some men who arrived in a black dually truck and a Jeep went into the motel room. He also said he fled after hearing gunshots. Under further questioning, however, the defendant admitted entering the motel room to carry the drugs from Barnes' car to the dresser. Barnes then asked him to act as a lookout. Says after the defendant heard gunshots, he saw one man run out of the motel room and drive off in Barnes' BMW. He denied seeing Santiago arrive with money and denied driving off in a BMW. Later in the interview, defendant admitted that he had stayed in the motel room until the girl drove up with the money, that he had left when Stevenson and the others discussed how to test the cocaine purity. The one man drove off in the Jeep, and one in the BMW, after the shots were fired, and that he took the bus home. He denied stopping at the 7-Eleven or accompanying Stevenson to Santiago's car. He also denied being in BMW. See how these motherfuckers lie? See how these people be lying? And man, why don't be trusting people when they tell you shit? Says after admitting that he still had not told the police the truth, defendant said that he had seen the 4 rat package. Look, he just keep changing the shit. Oh damn, that shit didn't work. Damn, how do you niggas know I'm lying? Well, I'm gonna hit him with this one. Says he admitted that he says after admitting that he still had not told the police the truth. In my last one, cops, this one is the truth. Said the defendant said that he had seen the 4 rat packages in the trunk of Barnes' car the night before the murders. Says that Hicks had started shooting when Barnes cut into one of the packages to test cocaine. That Hicks, so he blamed it on his homeboy, the big 300-pound motherfucker. Says that Hicks had used 2 guns, a chrome one and a blue steel one. That Hicks made him drive the BMW, that Hicks made him drive Barnes' BMW back to Linwood, and that Hicks had only then told him the packages contained flour, not cocaine. Man, these niggas is foul. And he filed for lying and trying to tell on his homeboy. These niggas is not your fucking friends out here. And this is back in even the 80s, whenever this crime. Let me see, when is this shit? The 88. Sorry ass motherfuckers. Says, but under further questioning, defendant claimed that Barnes had offered him $3,000 to assist in a drug deal, says which he had declined because he did not have a gun. Says that the next night, Barnes nonetheless picked him up, and brought him to a 7-Eleven, where he saw Cunningham in a Jeep and 2 other men in a black dually truck. That they all went to the Best Western Motel where Barnes rented a room. Says and that Hicks told him at that point the package just contained flour. These motherfuckers foul. Says when Barnes was about to cut open the package, Hicks jerked the defendant backwards, pulled out a gun, started shooting. Brown was the first one hit, then Cunningham fell to the ground, followed by Stevenson. Says during the volley of shots, so they fucked up because when Cunningham fell down, the other nigga in shot fell on top of him, which saved his life and shit. Oh man, this is just crazy that he survives that way. His friend taking shots for him because he's laying on top of him. Says when Barnes was about to go in pack, blah blah. Says, let me see where did I lose my sight at. Says his jerks to defending backwards, pull out the gun, says started shooting. Brown was the first one hit, then Cunningham fell to the ground, followed by Stevenson. During the volley of shots, Hicks pulled out a second gun, a chrome revolver. Defendant walked towards Barnes' BMW since he still had the keys from opening the trunk, says, but Hicks got in the passenger side and told the defendant to get in the car and drive. Says on the way out, so they saw Stevenson running on the streets. Hicks ordered the defendant to follow Stevenson to try to cut him off, says, and the defendant did so. Eventually, Hicks got out of the car, chased Stevenson in the used car lot. Says the defendant said he knew Hicks from the neighborhood. So they grew up together. He from the same neighborhood. He lying on this nigga. But he not knowing witnesses saw that it wasn't a big fat motherfucker. It was a slimmer fool. Says on June 15, 1988, defendant again waived his Miranda rights, says, and gave yet another statement. In this one, he said that Barnes came to his house the night before the murders and showed him the 4 wrapped packages in the trunk. Says that they had a conversation as to whether the packages look authentic and that they then rewrapped them with duct tape. Says he claimed that when he and Hicks were retrieving the kilos from the trunk of Barnes' cars at the motel, Hicks said that he was fixing to jack those niggers. So he said that. So he white now. The defendant also stated that after the shooting, Hicks pointed the gun at him and said, "Drive the car and do as I say, and you will not get hurt." Nigga, please. Then I gotta take some medicine. Says then Hicks, then when Hicks saw Stevenson running away from the motel, he said, "Drive and get him." That fool lying like a motherfucker. All these fools be lying like this. Defendant told the police that he had previously been untruthful because he was afraid of what Hicks might do to him or his family. He says, but when he was confronted by Cunningham's statement, he eventually corroborated everything except that he did not admit to having a gun in his hand. On August 8, 1989, Detective Larry, Collestad of Los Angeles Police Department received a phone call from a woman identified herself as Eula Roberson, who left her address and phone number. Roberson said she had some information to convey to the police detectives. In particular, she said that she had spoken to E Money, who had admitted killing 3 people in Monterey Park. When Collestad asked whether she knew this person by any other name, she replied, Eric. This is it. So the bitch done got mad. So this is what happened. You running your mouth to a broad, you smashing, and you break her heart, and you do all this stuff. They will get on that phone on your ass. Why you keep your dirty laundry to your motherfucking self, because it will come back to haunt you. And it goes back to how that other suspect Henriquez felt about when his wife was telling everybody about those robberies. This is what he was thinking that his wife would probably do, is the shit this woman's doing now. She says she asked to be picked up, says in an unmarked car, says in interviews somewhere other than her home. After says at trial, let me see this Roberson, a lady, yeah, Eula Roberson. At trial, Roberson denied telling police that E Money had admitted. Then it's the other thing. These motherfuckers will tell everything and then get at these trials and then deny they said anything because of the pressure of them possibly being killed. Because when they think they won't be protected, they go to court and find out there's no protection there. That's why I'd be like, let the cops figure this shit out. Shut your fucking mouth. Says the trial, she denied telling police E Money had admitted killing 3 people in Monterey Park and denied that she had ever had a conversation with defendant about any murders in Monterey Park. Says on the other hand, Roberson lived in Linwood, knew defendant from the neighborhood, and admitted that the defendant in Barnes often visited her nephew and son. So this is why she's changing her story after running her fucking mouth. Says Hicks, too, says visited from time to time. She denied knowing defendant by the name E Money, but admitted calling the police in August of 89, leaving her name, address, and phone number, and asking to be interviewed away from her house. She also admitted that the defendant was the only Eric she knew. What a stupid bitch. Defendant, who was 18 at the time, damn, this fool was young when he did his shit. Was 18 at the time of the murders, testified at trial. Defendant said that he had known Barnes for 10 years. So he knew these fools. These fools killing people they knew. Defendant said he had known Barnes for 10 years and had known Hicks for 5. Says although he had generally tried to steer clear of Hicks. Defendant said that Barnes came to his house on the evening of May 23rd, 1988, to ask defendant to transport the goods for a drug deal. Cunningham was also present, says, but defendant did not know who he was at the time. Says defendant himself a drug dealer. He ain't no drug dealer. He's a fake nigga posing the drug dealer, nothing but a thief. Defendant himself a fake drug dealer, says told Barnes to come back when he was ready. Barnes returned around 4 p.m. the next day, said and told the defendant the deal was still on for that night and said he would pay the defendant $3,000 for transporting the drugs. Yeah, right. He ended up killing him. He said when the defendant asked why Barnes wanted him to drive, where was that? Okay, when the defendant asked why Barnes wanted him to drive his Beetle, Barnes explained that an African American male driving a BMW like Barnes' car says was more likely to be pulled over than an African American male driving a Beetle, says like the defendant's car. Barnes showed the defendant the wrapped packages in the trunk. Says they looked funny to the defendant and felt softer than other kilos he had seen. Barnes said they had been opened once and needed to be rewrapped. So he killed his homeboy he'd have known all these years, along with these other 2 people buying the drugs. What a dirtbag. Barnes returned to the defendant's house around 10:30 p.m. So the defendant asked whether Barnes had a gun. Barnes said he did not. Defendant said he was going to. The defendant said he was not going to go. But Barnes said everybody knows one another, and it's not like that. Says when the defendant came outside, he saw that Hicks was in Barnes' car and assumed that Hicks must be the supplier of the drugs. Barnes brought the wrapped packages over to the defendant's Beetle and drove off. Says defendant followed. This all the story. They told all this shit. We can go past all this. Blah, blah, blah. Don't need this. Defendant sought to impeach Cunningham's testimony in reference to the nine. Okay, let me go into Cunningham's testimony. Says during the ride with Cunningham to the motel, Cunningham told the defendant that if they kept doing business together, said the defendant would make a lot of money. That the Barnes got the room key, says from the office, he entered the room 127, followed by Stevenson, Brown, Cunningham. Hicks remained inside Barnes' BMW, says while defendant stood in front of it. Says that the Barnes conferred separately with Hicks and Stevenson. Stevenson said he needed to make a phone call. When he came back, he said the money was on the way. Says a car then pulled up. That's that lady. Says that Stevenson talked to a woman, says who was driving. Says Stevenson pulled out a black bag of money, says showed it to Barnes, says, and then put it back in the car. Says after the car left, Barnes gave the defendant his car keys, says to take the wrapped packages from the trunk of the says to the motel. So the defendant set the bag on the dresser. Says Brown Barnes says were disgusting. Who was going to test its purity? Says as the testing was about to begin, Hicks pulled defendant back by the collar. Says blah blah. It's all a lie. Where's Cunningham's defense? The defense sought to impeach Cunningham's testimony by reference to his denial to police of any knowledge of Stevenson's death when questioned on May 25th, 1988. So the defense sought to impeach Santiago's testimony by reference to her initial statement denying any knowledge of what happened at the motel and her description of herself in police interviews as Stevenson's lover. Says, and so they about to like not testify, speak, give up nothing because they still involved in the game. Says in the defense sought to impeach Johansson's testimony by reference to his earlier estimate that the BMW passenger was 5'7" tall. So the defense trying all type of shit. That shit ain't gonna work. That shit ain't gonna work. Mitigate evidence, blah blah. So that's what happened. This motherfucker just a dirtbag, scandalous ass dude who deserves the needle in his arm and deserves to fucking die pronto. So that's him. He killed this homeboy he grew up knowing, and he killed these other two people. I wonder if my people know this dude. So he being in Linwood. So you got this dirtbag, Richard Hirschfield, 2 victims in 1980. He was sentenced. Dang, so they must use DNA for him. He committed his crime in 1980. He was sentenced January 25th, 2013. So he almost lived free for like 30 years. Says in Sacramento County, that's back up north. All these people on death row be up north. Hirschfield's killed 2 Davis College students and dumped their bodies in a Folsom ravine. So Folsom near the prison he's going to be serving in. Says he was convicted 33 years later based on new DNA evidence. Got your old ass. You thought you were going to live your fucking old ass life. And they came and got your bitch ass. That shit got to really fuck these fools. Or they go on with their life, be model citizens in the day, but creepy motherfuckers at night, and then the police come grabbing their ass. Here's Dwayne Holloway, 2 victims in 1983. He was sentenced July 8th, 1985, Sacramento, once again up north. Holloway killed 2 sisters during a robbery of their townhouse. And now the state will rob you of yours. So I'm going to do this one tomorrow. So this is Carl Holmes. He has 3 victims, committed his crime in 1993. January 24th, 1997, he was sentenced to death, and he committed his crime in Los Angeles County. So he's a gang member. Says gang members Holmes, Herbert McCain, and Lorenzo Newborn shot 3 teen boys to death on Halloween in Pasadena. So they did that crime in Pasadena. Let's see, we're at a party or some shit. So you got John Hope, 49, 1 victim, committed his in 1989. Sentenced May 30th, 1990. They got rid of his ass quick. In Kern County, says Hope was working as a door-to-door salesman of cleaning products when he entered the home of a Bakersfield woman and killed her. That's why you don't answer the door for the door-to-door, motherfucker. I don't even know why companies do that shit. Open your fucking store and leave it at that. They don't background check these people they hired, none of that shit. And they just, without notice, knocking on your door and shit. Keep a gun with you. Danny Horning, 1 victim, committed his crime in 1990, sentenced January 26, 1995, San Joaquin County. Horning killed the man known to keep large amounts of cash in his home, then dismembered the body before dumping it in the San Joaquin River Delta. Scandalous. Eric Houston, he got 4 victims, committed his crime in 94. Committed his crime in 1992, sentenced September 20, 1993, in Napa County. I think that's up north too. It says armed with a shotgun and a rifle, Houston went to a high school where he had failed to graduate and killed 4 people, wounding. I'm doing this tomorrow, and holding 80 students hostage for 8 hours until surrender. Yeah, I'm gonna end here, and I want to open up on this one. Maybe Thursday, because tomorrow I want to do this one speaking highly on the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, especially going over yesterday at the hearing, because I never knew that Malcolm X's daughter was charged with plotting the assassination of Louis Farrakhan, but Louis Farrakhan being a true, honorable, and wiser older man, and understanding being what he went through with the whole Malcolm X thing, the FBI's interference into dividing them and creating that conflict goes back to Bunchy Carter and them, deadly engaging with each other at UCLA and understanding how the FBI's involvement and shit. That when his daughter is being charged with the plot to kill him, he viewed that shit as like, man, this girl ain't do this shit on her own. Then they come up that the dude she's supposedly about to pay was a Jew dude. And so I want to go into that. So I'm going to leave off here with this guy. But like I say, I don't rock with these motherfuckers with this death row shit. I may have biases for people I know, maybe serving life and shit like that, but there ain't no thing me talking about free this person and all that other shit, because there are families that have been victimized and that grieve over what people have caused. Yeah, so that's all I got on that one. Let me go into, I think I see one more comment. So we'll go with this fool's a school shooter. Never heard of that one. I'm gonna look more on that one in a minute. And then let me see. It says how many people? Shit, a lot. There's a lot left. Let me exit out the list, show how many more on it, because it's like 700 people. So I'm gonna be doing this for a while. And they say how many people. It's a lot on there. Picasso says my lawyer told me about a drug bust in DFW, says, and it was so smooth that they sat back and basically watched the two dealers, says, take each other out. Shit, that ain't smooth. The drug dealers kill each other. Says if you do crime with someone, says guess who would be the witness? The last victim. Says the shooters be on the run. Says like a dumbass. Remember that when you think about committing crimes. No, nobody should be even wanting to commit crimes. Don't commit no crime if you don't have to. Only crime you commit is one that you can defend yourself in court against. Simple as that. Angie says a lot of them are not on death row anymore. It says they are in different prisons throughout California. Yeah, but I'm not gonna go off of that. Who ain't on it? I'm gonna go off of what's on this list. And then Jashawn says heard about that Pasadena stuff years ago. Yeah, I never heard about the Halloween shooting in Pasadena. I haven't heard of that one, nor have I heard of this school shooting one with this white dude. But that's all I got. Let me exit out of here. So I'm gonna start with Houston next. Houston is where is this fool at? Let me see. So this is Houston here, and this is only in the H's. There's a lot left. So it looks like I'm about the halfway point in this list. It's a lot of these people. A lot of them ain't gonna have the stories that I want to read. Like I've been pulling up the details in their stories. So a lot of it been me wanting to pull up the details in their stories, which really gives a greater account of what the fuck they've done. And is reading through their shit, they deserve these death penalties and shit. So these ain't innocent ass people. These are real fucked up ass people. People should have thought about shit. Even the ones smoking dope, like smoking that shit, think you're supposed to do this and that shit. Come on, man. Clean yourselves up. But also, man, this country and these politicians and the little chump ass, little slickhead offsprings of these punks who have access to logistics in this country that do this shit because they so un-American. But that's all I got. Catch you on the next one. Peace.